Good morning and welcome to Church at Home with Rachael from Monday the 13th of September. This morning, I'd like to talk a little bit about community and baptism. I'm finding I think it's the older I get, more mature, I don't know. Finding the older I get, the more attuned I am, I think, to the ways that God speaks to me and sort of shares things. I think God has always been speaking, but I was wearing my earplugs or something. I didn't always pay attention. And lately it seems that things are sort of coming at me fast and furiously, and they're not always making sense, but it's almost like puzzle pieces. If I just take a look at it and pay attention to it and put it down, sort of memorize it and put it down, that when I need it, I'll remember where it is. And I'm finding that puzzle pieces are really kind of coming together over the last little while and really making a beautiful picture. No idea what it will be in the end, but God is doing a good thing. And baptism's been coming up. Rob and I like to go to a restaurant called Anna's here in Wainwright. And there is an absolutely delightful waitress that is there during the week. And we were having lunch the other day, and she popped by the table and asked us if we do baptisms. And Rob's, his response, the chapel, they do them for military members. But, of course, I'm at St. Thomas in Wainwright and St. Mary's in Edgerton, and I'm always itching for a baptism. And so we are talking about baptism and how her child is 2 years old almost, and is that too late or too soon, and what would that look like, and how do we go about this? And we had a delightful conversation, and it got me thinking about how many times in the past that I've been approached by people who aren't necessarily churchgoers, or maybe are affiliated with the church but don't come very often, and they sort of come cap in hand to say, would it be okay? I know we're not very faithful, but could we, have a baptism? And the way they approach me about baptism, it's almost like they're nervous that we're going to say no, that we're going to punish them for not coming to church. But this young lady, when she was speaking to me, was so upbeat. I mean, it's just who she is, but she was so upbeat and excited, and like, could you do a baptism, and wouldn't that be exciting? And that would be fantastic. And I know we have to do baptism prep. And she was like, she was so positive about it. No question in mind that she would like her child to be received into the family of God, and work it from there. She wasn't promising she's going to show up every Sunday. She wasn't promising that she's going to be, an uber faithful mom, hitting her knees and saying prayers with her child every night for the rest of the foreseeable future. She's quite honest about it. And I think I like to see that kind of integrity. I know there are lots of priests, I've come across them, and I think I probably was one long ago, that would say, no way, we're not going to do a baptism unless you're going to be honest, and you're going to take the baptismal promises seriously with integrity. And, and I think I was there a long time ago, and I have watched, and I've seen damage done. I have seen people feel like they've been turned away by the church when something out of the blue moved into their life and sort of said, look for baptism, seek out a church, seek out a community, find baptism, have your child baptized. Yes, lots of times it's grandma. But what happens when it isn't? What is it? Or maybe it is even through grandma. But what is it that when a person who isn't really a churchgoer and struggles with their own faith identity and what they believe in, still comes to a priest and says, I think I would like to have my child baptized? I'm going to put my chips down on that's the Holy Spirit. I'm not going to be all, Oscar the Grouch about this and all cynical and say that they're just hedging their bets. I'm going to say something spurred them on. Something caused that beautiful waitress, that she's a lovely personality and she's so kind and generous with her time. Something called her to stop in the middle of a busy lunch rush to say sincerely to us, would you be okay with doing my son's baptism? And then having a bit of chat about that. It was beautiful. What is it about somebody who out of the blue decides that they want to approach the church, a place that I recognize can be a very scary place to walk in when you either haven't been there in a long time and don't know anybody, or you've never been in a church before and your experience of church maybe having been at a wedding or a funeral, or watching it on television. It's never like that. It's never like that in person. And the fact is that now that we have gone online and we are offering church in different ways because of the pandemic, we have opened ourselves up to the opportunities for people to feel more comfortable to say, can I come and speak to you about baptism? Can I come and be baptized or have my child baptized? And we need to do some work around how we respond to people when they ask that. I don't think that the church, I don't think that the body of Christ can afford, on earth, can afford to say to people, you can only come if. I don't think that Jesus made us the gatekeepers. I think Jesus made us the gate holder openers. I think we're standing here at the gate saying, come on in. Jesus is there. Come and meet him. I'm not going to force somebody who comes into my church and to see what it's all about. I'm not going to force them to stay. If they come and they say to me, you know what, I really don't believe all this. I think this is all hooey. I'm going to say, okay, is it okay if I pray for you? And if they say no, well, that's a different question. But I'm going to say, like, you don't have to stay. You are welcome to leave, but I'm not going to slam the gate closed behind you. I'm going to leave this door propped wide open. And if you want to come back, you're more than welcome. As a matter of fact, I'm going to hang out outside the gate just in case you do come back, so you'll see a friendly face when you do. So I think that particularly now that we've been online and we have been reaching out to people in ways that we couldn't before simply through our church buildings, I think we do need to think differently about how we think about baptism and how we welcome people into baptism. One of the things I've always highlighted for people when they come to me and say, I'd like to have my child baptized or I'd like to be baptized, is I share with them the need for that to be in community. I've had plenty of questions about, we'd like to have a private baptism. And only on a couple of occasions have I felt pastorally that that was an appropriate request. 92 times out of 100, I have said, no, you know what? We need to do this on a Sunday. We need to do this when there is a community around you to encourage you and to pray for you. And I've always really, really leaned on the importance of the community for their own personal growth, for their understanding of who they are as Christians, that they have people who are praying for them and upholding them as they begin or continue their Christian journey through baptism. But last night I had this conversation with a priest named Travis and from Edmonton, and he was saying to me about someone who approached him about baptism and asked if he could do it right then. And he said, well, I could, but I'm not going to because you need community. I thought, okay, yep, I agree, absolutely. And he said the way Travis explained it to me wasn't that necessarily this person needs the community himself, although that's all wrapped up in it, but that the community needed him. I think I'm going to start to cry here. The community needed his story for their continued growth. That baptism isn't just for the person who's being baptized, but the new person being baptized changes the community for the better. And the community needs to be present when their life is changed, when the kingdom gets bigger by a soul, when this person brings his or her experiences, his or her beliefs and questions into the community, which changes the community for the better, brings it closer and closer to God. I just found that to be a profound way of thinking of baptism, a very different way of thinking of baptism than I was taught in seminary or how I've always understood it as a white Anglo-Saxon Anglican. Instead of a wasp, I'm a wassa. Sounds like a piece of really dry bread. I think we need to, just as we're rethinking church and how we rethink community, I think we are primed for a renewal of how we think about baptism. So those are my preliminary thoughts. How about you? What do you think about baptism? What do you think the church should be doing or not doing? Please feel free to comment. Email me, question me, call me. I'd love to have these conversations with you. So have a great day today. Encourage yourself and others to think about their own baptisms and what does baptism mean in the life of our church. And for all those who are thinking maybe baptism or the renewal of my baptismal vows because it's been a really long time, maybe that's something I would like to look into, please let me know because I would love I would love to take that journey with you. Would love to sit down and hash out those questions and have that conversation and invite you to change me and our community as our community grows closer to God through Jesus Christ. Have a great day. God bless you, and I will see you again tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachael on Tuesday.